I fear this is corn plating 21 Pilots a little bit, but with as frequently as this pops up, I don't see anybody fully talking about it, so as your local crazy annoying person, I figured I'd take a stab at it. Have you noticed how many times 2 comes up in 21 Pilots?
I've got 2 faces. Don't sleep on a boy who can fall asleep twice. What's your ETA? 2 minutes. Already canceled twice.
If something happens this frequently with 21 Pilots, I fear it's important because Tyler Joseph never does anything just for fun. Never doing something just to be silly. It's always lore. It always goes back to lore with this man. So I started off my research, my journey into what 2 could mean. And no, I'm not talking about the drummer from Sleep Token, although he's pretty rad. And I specifically looked at what 2 could mean in reference to the Bible, because I figure if Tyler is drawing inspiration from anything, it is probably his religion. And what I found were 3 answers: duality, union, and balance. And so this is how I'm splitting up the video, because all 3 of those meanings of the number 2 can relate to 21 Pilots. So buckle in, because we have a lot to get through. First, I'd like to start off with duality. In the Bible, 2 can represent a contrast, good versus evil, 2 things going head to head. And obviously the concept of duality is something that we see a lot with 21 Pilots, specifically with Blurryface. In Blurryface, you have Tyler turning his negative emotions into a person. He's turning all of what he feels is bad within himself as a person that he can look at and actually go against and talk to and defeat. So just that separation alone is causing duality, much like the number 2 represents. And within Blurryface, we do actually have a 2 mention talking about these 2 separate people within Tyler. Now, as we move away from Blurryface and into Trench and Skeleton Icy and even Clancy, we can really start to see this battle of good and evil, this contrast of 2 different things, the duality of this whole world. You have Dima versus Trench, good versus evil. These 2 ideals coming together and going head to head. I feel as though this duality, or this concept of seeing yourself and what you're going through as 2 different people, is something that's kind of realistic. I know when I'm going through something, it's like I'm talking to a different person. It's like, chill out, you're okay, you gotta lock in, it's okay. And it's kind of this interesting thing of talking to yourself as if it's a different person. I don't know if that's just me, but that is a thing that I do, so I can see this whole Blurryface thing. But you can also see this concept of duality a lot within Clancy, not the character, the actual album. And this is actually where I picked up on the pattern of 2, because you have this in Overcompensate.
Don't sleep on a boy who can fall asleep twice.
And not only do you have the mention of twice, but you also have Clancy going this, doing this, not peace signs. He's showing you 2. So that was further evidence for me that obviously 2 is something important and something we should be paying attention to, since Tyler is like, look, I'm showing you 2. And he's never that upfront and blunt with his lore, so the fact that he's doing that, probably something important. And we see a mention of 2 again in Midwest Indigo, actually twice. Wait a second. There's 2 references of 2 in the same song. That's kind of like meta. But not only are there several references of 2 within Clancy, the whole setup of the album is very much like duality. Honestly, I think it kind of goes into this whole concept of 2 different people, kind of more than Blurryface. I mean, Blurryface obviously introduced us to this character, and Blurry himself represents the split from Tyler, but if you think about how Clancy is set up lyrically, there's a lot of songs where it seems like Tyler is talking to a different version of himself. You can see this through how the lyrics are set up as if someone is having a conversation, and also through the music video visuals where there's literally a conversation going on. And once again, it seems to be like there's 2 different versions of Tyler. There's this present Tyler, who he is now, and maybe a past version, or just simply a different version of him. Once again, this is pushing that idea of what 2 means, this duality. These 2 people that are colliding and represent different ideas. This idea of good and bad. But if you want to look even further from Blurryface and Clancy, you can look at No Fun Intended, because there is a song on that album that is literally called 2. And in this song, Tyler says, "I'm 2." This might be in reference to how Tyler sees his thoughts, sees his mind, and might have been the beginnings of Blurryface, this concept of splitting his mind into two different people. I just looked through the comments of 2 and I agree with it, but it seemed like a lot of people had mixed emotions about what to feel when listening to this song. I'll let you listen to it, and then I'll say what the people are saying, because I agree. A lot of people in the comments were saying that they felt panicked and calm and at peace and stressed out all at the same time. There's like a beautiful little melody going on, but then just in the background you can just feel that tension, like something is gonna happen. It's like I'm walking through the woods, but something is watching me and I know it. And I think maybe the song is written to be that way. If you're looking at why Tyler is 2, these two halves of himself, it would make sense as to why this song kind of feels chaotic. One side of him is peaceful and one side of him is not. He's got two faces. Blurry's the one he's not. Moving on to chapter 2 of this video is union. Another meaning of 2 in the Bible is this idea of union. I think it's referring to marriage. Marriage. I feel like this too, I feel like this also represents what 2 can mean for 21 Pilots. I feel like Tyler is hyper aware of there's not really a good way to end the whole Clancy storyline, because since it parallels mental health, you can't really defeat negative feelings. Unfortunately, that's just life. Everyone is going to go through something and everyone's going to feel sad, and you can't stop those feelings from happening. It's just a back and forth until we die. And I know that sounds really bleak, but we'll explain as to why that's kind of a good thing later on. But it's this whole idea of a union, 2 people coming together. And I think we're starting to see that within Clancy. I think on a metaphorical kind of phase, you can talk about how the good and bad in you has to come together. It has to exist together. You can't be happy all the time and you can't be sad all the time. Although I am sad all the time, but regardless. The two halves of Tyler, Blurryface and Clancy, this good and bad, has to go together. They have to coexist because that's how life is. And to even know the concept of good and bad, both of those things have to exist. But I think in a more literal sense, you have Clancy coming to terms with this duality. Here recently, I don't have a lot of answers for you, but it seems as though Clancy might become a bishop, or he has some sort of relation to a bishop, but regardless, there's something going on that is hinting that Tyler may switch sides, that he may become a bishop and join the bad side. And if he does do this, I think it does represent this union, these two ideas coming together, Tyler accepting that side of himself. And certainly within mental health, you have to do that, right? You know, the first step to recovery is acceptance. And through Clancy becoming a bishop, we can assume that this represents accepting those more negative sides of who you are. Accepting that's how you feel about things, but at the same time, presumably Clancy is going to defeat Dima from the inside out. And I think this is such a great representation because, again, first step to recovery is acceptance. So by Clancy accepting the bishops, he could then start to actually defeat them, this time from the inside out. This whole idea of union and good and bad coexisting leads me to the third part of this video, which is balance. I think I kind of touched on it a little bit with the whole bishop thing, but I'll explain it again. 2 in the Bible also represents balance, harmony. I feel like Thanos a little bit here, not that one. But I think, again, 2 within 21 Pilots represents balance. This whole idea of you can't have good without bad, and you can't have bad without good. It's like that whole idea of you can't have darkness without light, and you can't have light without darkness, because without the other one existing, we would never know when the other one occurs. And I think that's kind of how life is. Remember how I said it's all about the good and the bad? I feel as though as much as I want my life to be good in every way always. That's just not realistic. And if everything in my life was good always and guaranteed to be perfect, I wouldn't appreciate it. See, the whole thing with life is that you go through hardships, so when the good times roll around, you appreciate that even better. So there's a balance there. In regards to 21 Pilots, I think we are kind of reaching that balance as we conclude this storyline, as Tyler tries to end it. I have no idea how he's gonna do that. I've always wondered this because it's such like, mental health is just such a continuous story, and the self journey is not linear, and I couldn't even imagine how you would go about ending that. But I always thought that the 21 Pilots story would have kind of a neutral ending, and if it did, we'd have this idea of balance. You have this entire universe that is set on duality and balance. Dima, Trench, good, evil. Both of those things are coming together, you know, fighting, obviously, but there's also balance with that. So I would expect that the storyline ends with some sort of balance, some sort of acceptance that, you know, it's not always going to be good all the time, and it's not going to be bad all the time. You're just simply right in the middle. And so basically, that's what I think 2 represents with 21 Pilots and why it is brought up so many times. If you enjoyed the video, you can hit like and subscribe to join the Groovy Graveyard, and I will see you in the next one.